Hello everyone, it's MrAeroHD back here again with, I can't even remember the name of my own series, back with Skid Smarter. So this is the tips and tricks, tutorials, and guides on how to make yourself a better drifter. In part 1 that we bought a Nissan 370Z, basically just explain the do's and don'ts of how to pick a drift car in the auto show or the garage or the car list or whatever. What you're looking for, and again, everything I told you in that video and everything I told you in this video is all subjective. It's all things that I found to work for me through my own experience. When we bought our car, we were looking for something that's good for a beginner, somebody who has never built a car for the sole purpose of getting sideways before. Now, if you are just getting into it, you don't really know what you're going to want, thanks lady, or what you need for drifting. So this is, again, this is just my personal experience. This is what I found to work for me, and yeah, here we go. This is how I personally upgrade a car. The first thing I do is just check out my conversions, see what kind of engines I can put in it so I know what I'm working with while I'm building the car. So we can put in the 2.6 liter twin turbo, which is from the Nissan Skyline. It is the RB26, or we can put in the 6.2 liter V8 from the new Corvette. This car at this point right now, we don't really have to do anything. So we can twin turbo it, we can supercharge it, or we can centrifugal supercharge it. Again, this car is made just for the purposes of learning, so we're not really going to need to do anything. The next thing comes the aesthetics. Again, this is more of a personal preference thing. I just like to do the aesthetics first. This car really doesn't do anything for me aesthetic wise. You know, maybe just a little wing on it and that's it, but I usually look through all the aesthetics first, just to see if I like anything. Again, you don't really need to do this first. This is more of a me thing, but I would always recommend going to your conversions first, not because you're going to want to convert anything right out of the gate, just so when you're building your car and you're building your engine, you know that, oh, okay, if I'm not making enough power, I can, you know, turbocharge it, or I don't think this engine's going to work, I can swap in this engine or that engine. The next thing that you should absolutely do is check your tire widths immediately. You're going to want to see how wide you can make your rear tires. In this case, we can make them 295s in the rear, and we can make them 275s in the front. So stock, we get 275s. We're going to leave our width stock, so I'm just going to make it 265 in the front. I didn't want it that wide. I kind of wanted 255s, but I'd rather a 65 than a 45. And then we're going to check our compounds. Again, we're just going to want street tires in this instance. We're not really putting much power into this build. This is more just to learn how the car handles, not use the power to its utmost potential. So you're going to want to do your tires first, or second, absolutely. You can check your compounds or your widths first, but again, your tires, especially your widths, are going to dictate your whole build, because a car that's running 355s is going to need a lot more horsepower to be used effectively than a car running 275 rear widths. And then again, you can put this is more of an aesthetic thing, just like the body kits. I just like to have my car looking good before I do the tune, because this, for me, at this point in building cars, this is like the longest part of the build for me, is just finding a pair of wheels that I like. I like these. I just don't feel like sitting through and looking through more. Your tire or your rim size. I've gotten arguments with people about this before. Again, this is more of a me thing and everything. A lot of people run full widths or full rim size. First of all, I think it looks dumb. Second of all, I don't like the feeling of having like no sidewall. I also don't like the feeling of having too much sidewall. Horizon, it's not that big of a deal, but you'll really notice this in Forza 4 if you're running like maybe like a 16-inch tire versus a 20-inch tire. So I usually go somewhere around the middle. I don't want to sacrifice too much performance for looks, so I usually run something that's in the middle. So in this case, it's a 20-inch, so we're going to put on the 20s. And for me, that's plenty. That looks good, and there's still a lot of tire there left. So we're going to move into platform and handling. Again, your weight is should be your third thing on the list. Absolutely. It's going to dictate how you build the rest of the car. For the most part, everything that comes after this is pretty self-explanatory, unless you're being intentionally obtuse. But yeah, so it drops the car 2,600 pounds. That's exactly where we want it. Now, roll cage. A lot of people don't run roll cages. basically because they say it just adds weight, but it does, in this case, even up the weight distribution, and it does stiffen your chassis, which is never a bad thing. If you find your car is way too stiff, and like you're tuning it to be softer and it's just way too stiff for you, then you know, dump the roll cage. But I rarely find a situation where that happens to me, so I always put the roll cage in. I've never really been like, wow, this is awful, I need to take the roll cage out. And it usually only adds, like in this case, it's adding 96 pounds, so like whoopee-doo, you know what I mean? That's 96 pounds that I wouldn't mind adding. Rear, front, anti-roll bars. Basically, the only game that I found anti-roll bars is not a necessity is Forza 5. Again, this guide is more for Forza 4 and Forza Horizon 2. Again, I'm playing Horizon 2 on the Xbox One right now. But a lot of this stuff transfers over. There's a couple of things that are different, like the rally suspension, which we're going to get into in another episode. But if you're doing this on Forza 4 or Forza 5, it's almost completely different. If you guys want me to make my own Forza 5 build video and explain why I do what I do, I can, but I really don't want to, mainly because I just don't even bother with Forza 5 anymore. I pretend like it doesn't exist. Anyway. So, in a recent video I said that you should run rally springs all the time in a drift car, basically because it just gives you more steering angle at the sacrifice of having stiffer suspension. For the sake of this build so far, we're going to leave it on race springs. So what I'm telling you can apply to other games, other Forza games, and if you don't have the Storm Island DLC, you can still maybe learn a thing or two. Brakes, again, pretty self-explanatory. Race brakes. And that's it for platform and handling. We're going to go to drivetrain next. Again, I like to do all my drivetrain and stuff first. Basically, then you'll know where your weight sits at, what you need to do. Transmission, some people run rally transmission. In the only instance I run rally transmission is if the car that I'm using has more than 6 gears from stock. Because in older Forza games, I apologize for my language, but in older Forza games, if you're using something called, not called, but let's say like a Bugatti Veyron, you swap in a race transmission, it'll drop it down to a 6-speed. But in Horizon, all it does is narrow up your shift time and it drops the weight. So I will switch it to a rally transmission and spend the time to tune it and make it work just to have it in 6 gears. Because I suck at tuning anything that's over 7 gears. Over 6 gears. I know one car in this game has like 8 speeds, and it's just, I think it's the Lexus RCF, and it's just like, I'm used to tuning the gears a certain way, and then that will make me, like, it just changes my whole thing up, so I find it's easier just to do that. But in this instance, I don't believe that the 370 has more than 6 gears, so we're just going to run with the race transmission. Again, a lot of people may find they don't need to put in a race transmission, but it drops the weight, and it does let you tune your gears if you need to. Race driveline, that's just dropping weight. And the diff, some people will run sport diffs, basically because you don't really, some people say they don't need it. I just run the race diff because I can. I run cars in those times where I'm being just like obnoxious for no reason. And again, while you guys are building this car, you're going to want to press up on the D-pad so you're getting the power, torque, weight, and your front weight distribution and your displacement. Your displacement's not necessary, but the other 4 things are. Some people use this as well, 0 to 60 times and stuff like that. I just need that. Some people, majority of them are new to the game, just use their stats, and we'll talk about their stats and say things about their stats. Here's the news to you new players. These numbers here don't mean anything at all. Forza's stats have always been more of a benchmark. They don't actually mean anything. A car with a speed of 10, you know, I've seen lose to a car with a speed of like 8.5 or 9. Your stats don't really mean a thing. They never have. They probably never will. The only 2 things that are important are these numbers and your PI. That's about it. So, again, we just want enough power to be able to kick this thing sideways. It's not, we never set, holy crap, we haven't set it up to be super grippy. So, when upgrading your engine, there's only 2 things you need to know. The only things, you can basically, for me, I just, you know, let's say we're making a max power build, or something that needs a lot of power. I just race everything, especially the flywheel. The flywheel's like just easy, It's just easy weight loss and makes everything a little bit easier. But I always leave camshafts and then any sort of forced induction till last, especially if it's a turbo. If I don't need it, I don't use it, because if you look at your power and torque numbers and the power and torque curve in the graph, the more you add, if you add cams, or if you do like race cams or race turbo, it really messes up the ratio of power to torque in your car. So I really just would suggest not doing that at all, unless you absolutely have to. Some people like having race cams, basically because it just gives you more RPM. I'm not one of those people, so you'll never see me unless I'm absolutely forced to run more than maybe street cams or sport cams. So for this, we're just going to do stuff like this, stuff like race intakes and stuff. It's just power. It doesn't really change your graph, your ratio and your graphs at all. So I just want to get about 400 horsepower from this thing, or A-class, top of A-class, whichever comes first. Ignition. As far as I know, guys, you can correct me on this if you want. The exhaust note does not change when you upgrade the exhaust. So we don't really want that. So we'll put these on there. See, I'm just building this because I want it to be as close to 400 horsepower as I can. So 399 is about perfect. Flywheel on there. Bang. Done. So our car is built. You know, last thing I should mention is when you're doing your widths, for me, I always like my rears wider than my fronts. I used to run my fronts wider basically because I just like the grip in the front, but for issues of balance, I just found that that's the better ratio. I usually try to run, you know, you have to figure out what works for you. I try to run like maybe 20 millimeters narrower in the front than I am in the rear. That really depends on the car though. Some cars I have almost exact, like this one, exactly the same, sorry. Some cars I'm running like 355s and like 275s in the front. It really just depends on the car. So that was the build. Next episode, we're actually going to not get into tuning at all. We're going to skip tuning altogether for now and just going to learning the basics. So I'll see you guys in that one. Take care. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my videos, go ahead and click that subscribe button. I also have a Facebook and a Twitter. For those links, be sure to check out the description box below.